Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's YouTube tutorial. And this week we're looking at the passive voice. We're going to be doing this tutorial in a couple of parts. In the first part, I'm going to look at what the passive is and why we use it. And in the second part of the class, we're going to look at how to use the passive, specifically in the present simple tense, because of course the passive can be used in pretty much every tense. So I thought it would be better just to focus our attention on the present simple tense. So firstly, what is the passive? Well, the passive is the opposite of the active voice. If we have an active voice, then there is a subject, maybe a person, for example, doing an action. We're really focusing our attention on the subject of the sentence, the person or the thing that is doing the action. Now, we also call that person the agent, and that is what the subject becomes when we use the passive voice. The passive voice doesn't so much focus on the person or the thing that is doing the action, but more on the person or the thing that is affected by the action. So not so much on the doer of the action, but the person who is affected or influenced by the action. So why do we use the passive? Well, think about this. Why would you not want to focus on the person or the thing doing the action? Well, there's a few possibilities here. It could be because we simply don't know who is doing the action. It could be because it doesn't matter who is doing the action. And it could be because the result of the action or the person or thing that is being affected by the action is simply more relevant and more important. So let's look at an example. This example will be in the past simple tense. This photo was taken in 1994. This photo was taken in 1994. So let's think about why we use the passive here. Well, who is doing the action? Well, it's the person who takes the photo. Now, it's possible that we don't know who took the photo. If that's the case, then we wouldn't use the active voice. It sounds strange to say somebody took this photo in 1994. That would be unnecessary to say that. So it could be that. It could also be because it's just irrelevant. Maybe my brother took this photo, but who cares? It doesn't matter who took the photo. It's not about who took it. It's about the photo. That's the important point here. So that is an example of why we might use the passive voice. Now let's look at how we use it. And as I said earlier, we're going to focus on the present simple tense here. So we need to know the structure of the sentence. So with every passive sentence, you need a form of the verb to be. And there are many, many forms of this verb. So in the present simple tense, there are three forms of to be: am, is, and are. And of course, it depends on the subject of the sentence. I am, you are, he, she, it is, we are, and they are. And when we're deciding which form to use, it all depends on the subject of the sentence. So the structure of a passive sentence in the present simple is the subject of the sentence, and then the correct form of to be, which is am, is, or are, and then the past participle. With every passive sentence, we're going to use a form of to be and then the past participle. Let's take a look at an example. Hundreds of new apartments are built in London every year. Okay, so in this example, we've got hundreds of new apartments, which is they. So we need to use the form of to be, are. They are. Hundreds of new apartments are built. And then we use the past participle of build, which is built. Now, let's take a look at why we're using the passive voice here. Well, similar to my example before about this photo was taken in 1994. When we're considering the fact that hundreds of new apartments are built every year, it doesn't really matter who is building them. That's not the relevant point here. It's all about the apartments. And that's really a key point about the passive voice. It's not about who is doing the action, because we don't know who that person is or those people, or they're simply irrelevant. So that's why we use the passive voice. Okay, now we're going to practice the passive voice together. So I'm going to give you 5 sentences, all of them in the present simple, and all of them will be in the active voice. And what you have to do is change them to the passive voice. So again, the things you need to consider. Number 1, what is the correct form of to be to use in the sentence? And it depends on the new subject of the sentence. For example, if the sentence is construction companies build hundreds of new apartments every year, well, the new subject of the sentence is hundreds of apartments. That, of course, is a plural, so it's they. So it's hundreds of apartments are built every year. So we know we're going to use are. So consider that, and also consider the verb in the sentence, because we might need to change that verb so that it becomes a past participle verb. So you need to consider quite a few things. So this exercise is actually really, really good for practicing lots of different areas of English. Okay, so I'm going to give you your 5 sentences to change from the active voice to the passive voice. I'll give you around a minute to try to complete these. Okay, let's take a look at the answers now. So, sentence number 1, more than 559 million people speak Spanish globally. So we want to make Spanish the new subject of the sentence. So it would become Spanish is spoken by 559 million people globally. Spanish is spoken by. Okay, the next one, number 2. Colombia produces 11.5 million bags of coffee. So let's change that round. 11.5 million bags of coffee are produced every year. So here we've used are because it's bags of coffee, 11.5 million bags of coffee. So we use are produced. The next one, publishers in the US publish between 600,000 and 1 million books every year. So let's change that round. Between 600,000 and 1 million books are published in the US every year. The next one, number 4. The teacher teaches the students every Tuesday. Let's switch that round. The students are taught every Tuesday by the teacher. And number 5, the restaurant wants a new chef to start next month. The correct answer, a new chef is wanted to start next month by the restaurant. Notice how when we're using the agent, the person who is doing the action, we put by and then we say the agent. Now this person or thing is not completely necessary, but if we want to include them, then that's how we do it. But we could say a new chef is wanted to start next month without saying by the restaurant. Okay, so how did you do? Hopefully all of those points are clear for you. We're going to be practicing the passive much more in these videos in the coming weeks and months. So hopefully a really good opportunity for you to practice and improve this really important grammar point. So thank you for watching this week's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure you click the like button. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back with another tutorial next week.